Right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for showing up. This is the CALI 2025 annual members meeting. I wanted to make sure that we started with some thanks to the departing board members, Larry Cunningham, who's formerly at Charleston Law, Aline Allen, the dean at LSU, and Ben Carlson at Penn Cary. We appreciate their service on the board. I appreciate the service of everybody on the board because it's it's volunteer work, and it's I need and appreciate all the guidance I can get in how we run Cali. So here's my talk, and we're going to keep it. I'm going to talk pretty fast because I got a lot to cover. But this is being recorded, and we'll post it on the Cali website. First of all, I wanted to let you know that we won an award. We won two awards, actually. We won the American Legal Technology 2024 Award in Education. I know it's a little bit hard to read. It's a piece of glass. It turns out taking pictures of glass is kind of hard. But we also won the honorable mention for the in the Access to Justice category for our work in A to J author. I mean, we're pretty happy about that. Thanks. Um, so really, there's nothing to talk about these days except AI, right? It's AI everywhere on everything. And for this meeting, it's what's the AI in Cali, right? You can't say Cali without AI. And I'm going to structure my talk with this agenda. It'll go fast, I promise. Starting with where I think we always have to start, which is the law students, and in this case, particularly the 2025, the future law students, right? They're not like us. They're younger. They grew up with iPads. They survived the distance learning of the pandemic. They think of information consumption in a different way, even the most technically advanced of all of us. All right, they were born in 95 to '01. This is a quote from my wife when she was training a new attorney in the AG's office, where they stopped the training and said, "Is there just a video I can watch? Is there a video?" And they think in terms of multiple paths to the same information. In other words, if this isn't getting me there, then maybe somebody else has something that will get me there. And that's they don't know that, but that's based on this article, or that's I saw this idea first from Michael Caulfield, who we brought to do a talk at the Cali conference some years ago in an article that he called Choral Explanations, in which there is no one best resource model for everybody to learn the exact same thing. I know sometimes as instructors, we want everybody to be working lockstep so that we can say everybody saw the same thing. There's an equity issue there too. But the students themselves have some say in how they consume or how they decide how they're going to structure their educational environment. And so we got to be thinking about that. As part of our strategic planning that we're doing, we're trying to center the user, and we're trying to develop user personas so that when we think of what we're doing, we say, well, what would the 2025 law student think? What's their take on that? And so creating user personas is a well-known, well-worn sort of idea of keeping the user in your mind while you're designing new products or new content. So let's also talk about scale, cost, and capture. And what I mean by that is we have a process by which we develop things like lessons, books, and so on. And it starts with trusted inputs in terms of the AI and what we're doing. And here, that those trusted inputs are CALI lessons or chapters from Elaine Dell books, and they're trusted because we hired experts, subject matter experts, law faculty, law librarians, to write or to author these. And we use the CALI editorial board, who are other experts, to backstop us, as well as we use our own staff and our experience in these things to develop content that we then publish for faculty to assign to their students, or students to find by themselves. Remember, they're all in their own journey. But in that process, we're looking for ways to insert or to use generative AI be it for formatting or for generation, that can hopefully create things that we can't otherwise create easily, quickly, or cheaply ourselves. And so that typically manifests itself as APIs to commercial tools like ChatGPT or NotebookLM, Gemini, Anthropic, Claude, so many others like that. But these have a problem, right? They're commercial tools, one. So if we want to scale this up to dozens, hundreds, thousands, millions, if we're doing real time stuff, it's going to cost a lot of money. And we're a tiny nonprofit. And worse, the whole market space is in experimental mode. They're beta testing on us, on society as they're going. And so they're changing their things and they're pulling things and they're adding things. And so it's a very, let's just say, rocky ground or sandy ground to build foundations of delivery systems on. And so we'd much rather be able to use free tools, so that we can control, at least stochastically the content that we want. Okay, this works. Now we'll move over to this next thing that works, right? It's crossing a pond where the rocks aren't so slippery as much as possible. Ideally even self-host, even if that means that we're developing things that are a little bit behind what's commercially available. Not always using the most cutting edge tools because we want a little bit more stability in what we're doing. So, and if you didn't think that there were, you thought, well, it's ChatGPT, John, all the way forever. They've spent billions. Just this week, DeepSeek was announced, and and the claim is that this is as good as or nearly as good as a model, and it's open source as ChatGPT 4, and it's rocking the AI world right now. Who knows? So, we're trying to be able to scale this cheaply. We're trying to keep the costs, and we're trying to avoid being captured by a dead end product strategy as well. Now, quality, man, we got to do quality has got to be maybe at the top of this list. If we're putting out crap, then we might as well just go home. And so there's all sorts of places in here where we want to make sure that things have worked the way we hope they did. So the staff or the CEB or the author themselves reviewing scripts that are interim steps in the development or in the production of new stuff. The ability to do things once the script is produced that enhances it or makes it more relevant. And finally, and I got to move my face here, we want to up our game on feedback and on surveys and focus groups from the students and from the faculty. We want to educate them so that they can give us quality feedback so that we can build that into our we're not just publishing content, we're creating a content management system, a publishing process. All right. So something that I like to believe has been part of CALI from the beginning is agency. And what that means is that we don't just publish content. We think about, well, how can we make the system by which we make things available to everybody else, even if they don't want to sell it to us or have us publish it on our website. And so CALI Author, QuizWrite are all ways in which faculty can write their own quizzes. They can write their own lessons. They can take our lessons, clone them, and do things with them. There hasn't been a lot of use of that, but I still feel like it's a vital aspect of what we do is let you as our members say, I want to be able to do what CALI's doing there, and I'm not a programmer. So if there's ways that we can build into our own production capability a door for you as author users, then we're going to be looking at that. And so that means that we've got this ecology: CALI Author for lessons, law books for books, QuizWrite for quizzes, where there's ways that you can come in and maybe, and my hope is that these AI enhancements to lessons can be a button or an option. In other words, we would white label our production process back to you, the members, to be able to do the same things that we're doing, right? And that's what the last thing is about is synergy is if we're all sharing our ideas on how to do this, then we're all stronger for doing it. That's what CALI is. We're a consortium, we're a collaboration, we're people whose goal is the betterment of legal education, not I'm going to hide this and then sell it, and try to make a bunch of money out of it. So our sharing page is at cali.org/AI. These are the results of these are the better results of our experiments so far. And I want to walk through a few of them just to describe them. I don't have enough time to do actual demos, but you guys can go to that web page and poke around all you want. The first one is conversational podcast. So I don't know how many of you have played with NotebookLM, but but it does. You can say to ChatGPT or to, in this case, Gemini, create a podcast out of something. But NotebookLM has this other somewhat unusual feature in which the podcast is not just one person talking about something. It's two people having a conversation about it with banter, with jokes, with interrupting each other. And it's amazingly good for being an AI generated podcast. And so our thought was, well, let's create short podcasts out of lessons or short podcasts. And short, when I say short, I mean it's not going to contain all the information that's in the lesson. It's not going to hit every point. It's short for a chapter in a book. It's not going to be the entirety of the text. That would be in an audio book, or that would be an audio lesson, like Audible or something like that. That too is possible, and I'll mention that in a moment. But here, it's intentionally short for reasons that I'll get to in just a second. The other piece of that is using the same tool, maybe NotebookLM, or using ChatGPT or any LLM to generate a script which we feed to a tool called synesthesia, or Colossian. I hope I don't mispronounce that in an inappropriate way. But what you get out of those is not just audio, but you get video. And it's amazingly not uncanny valley. It looks real. And so we've done that with a few lessons where we fed it the lesson. We said we want a short summary of this, and it will generate a talking head or a person looking like they are giving a lecture on it, and it has the capability to add additional things like slides or checkboxes or animations, in that post-production step. Now, we still want to be careful about AI producing hallucinations, even though we've guardrailed it with only work from the content of our lesson. And so we've worked out a way, or we've worked with the system in a way that it gives us a script that can be reviewed prior to the, we've separated the generation of the summary from the generation of the video. And to us, that's a very important aspect of this in order to maintain quality control. And you'll notice that's Sarah up there in the upper right-hand corner. This has the ability for creating avatars out of with your own people. I don't know how happy Sarah would be to be the face of CALI. I would be happy with that, but we wanted to see if there were ways to explore that as well. So why create short videos out of lessons? Well, here's the lesson that video is out of. And I'll point out to you that the lesson completion time is 35 minutes. And I'll grant you a lot of our lesson completion times are optimistic. It could take 40, 50 minutes if the student goes back and forth and, does a careful job of taking the lesson. And I got to believe that amount of time that is required to invest scares some students away. They're like, I don't have time to do all that. And so, part of our thinking is, well, what if we give them a 5-10 minute video or a 5 or 10 minute conversational podcast that sort of whets their taste buds for it, and they go, all right, I see where this is going. And they've taken essentially not a full bite of an apple, but a nibble on it. And now they're ready to jump in, and do the hard thing, run the lesson. And our lessons are rigorous. They're designed to challenge the student, but we don't want to scare them or have them hesitate before they dive in. And so maybe these videos or these podcasts will be a way to get them to, it's a gradient step prior to that. Another thing we're working on is what we call casebook companions, and this is in some ways this is what generative AI is all about, right? From a book chapter or from a lesson, we can generate a bunch of flashcards or key terms. We can generate a whole bunch of multiple choice questions. We could take the cases that are in the book and create briefs or summaries or outlines out of them. All with the press of a button and with a little bit of quality assurance review for that. And then we can post that up on the website. Oopsie daisy. Post that up on the website as a companion to the casebook. And this would be work that the author would have to do, that somebody else we would have to hire to do, that we would have to do, that if the quality coming out of the AI is good enough for this, and if the student feels like, well, I'm getting tired reading, I'll do some flashcards, I'll have it, I'll interact with the material by trying to see how well I do on answering these questions. And that benefits them in their learning, all to the good. All right. So there's multiple paths of learning here that we can use AI to generate to, right? Summaries of podcast or full audio, summaries of book chapters or full audio, short videos, and who knows, flashcards, multiple choice questions, tutor bots, quizzes, games, outline summaries. I mean, that's a rich area of opportunity for us to explore. And as we do that, we'll post that on that cali.org/AI webpage. We've got 1,300 lessons to play with, 1,000 chapters or sections of books. And the reason why I picked 10,000 cases is because years ago we did a little study where we said, well, how many actual unique cases are there in all the case books that are commonly taught in law school? And I think the number came out to 10,000 that showed up in most of the case books, and 15,000 if you went to the long tail of that. So it's not as though students have to be familiar with the millions of cases that have been published, but through law school they at least see the name of or are exposed to at most up to 10,000 cases. And what if there were automatically generated summaries for those? And I know there are commercial companies right now doing just that, generating summaries and putting them out there. And I know that it's also a controversial issue in legal education, right? The goal, as we say to students, is not to have the outline. The goal is to make the outline. They learn from the making, not from the having of the outline. But you have to peel that back a little bit. There are some use cases where making the outline isn't the point anymore. They just need to be familiar with something. And so our process of looking at this is also a process of trying to figure out where the use cases land and whether or not we can do something that is valuable to the students, and not what's the word? Not damaging to them. All right. So so I also wanted to mention tutor bots because we've been working with Sean at OU. He's written a paper where he's worked on his own little quiz bot that he uses inside of class with his students. He calls it the Socratic quiz bot. It's not a big giant complicated project, but it's got its challenges, and we want to see if we can take what he does with his class into something that could be generalized and made available. Remember that agency to other faculty who want to try what he's doing with his class, and I love this as a model. I love finding faculty who are doing things but they need either where we can either help or where we can take what they're doing and expand, or where we can work together to find the best way to do things. So looking forward to that. So does this AI thing change everything that we're doing? Um, well, yeah, a little bit, right? It's insisting. The more I watch and learn and see what we're doing with AI, it does seem to be something I cannot blow it off. I can't say it's a bubble, it's going to burst. It's crypto or it's going to go away. No, there's actual value here, but I don't yet absolutely know how best to deploy that value, you know. And I don't want to throw out all the babies with all the bathwaters, right? It's not just tweaking how we teach and learn. It is going to change the way we think. And again, I refer back to the 2025 student. They're not going to Google, they're going to ask an AI. So what's the answer to this question? And that's the future of how people are going to interact with this huge data set, known as generative AI. And as a result, I think this is going to require us to have a much more profound and systemic response. We're going to have to rethink a little bit about what the future of legal education must look like. I mean, so I gave you examples of generating a 10 or 15-minute video, which doesn't cost very much and sort of works. But, imagine a few years from now pressing a button and generating 45 lectures, for an entire class, along with the casebook and the multiple choice questions and the final exam and the answers. And then it grades it when you're done, right? That's not an entirely ridiculous proposition at this point. I don't. It's not. We're not there yet, but you can start to see the outlines of that on the horizon, and whether or not we think that that's the best way to go forward, we have to start thinking about that by understanding the technology as it exists now. And so that's why we're in this sandbox playing these games to see what all this stuff is about, right? I do not believe that superhero AI is going to come along and solve our big problems. I don't know about whether or not it can attack the cost of legal ed or solve the day-to-day crisis, or deal with the fact that law is becoming much more complex, or solve our tech competency problems or ethics. I don't even know how that might do, or address our inclusion and equity problems. But I don't want to think of it in terms of AI solves those problems. I rather want to think about it as maybe AI can be something that we can use in small pieces and bits to solve aspects of those problems. In other words, get a better handle on them, because some of these are quite intractable. I was just at ITSECon, which was the legal aid tech folks, and I heard the best quote I heard there was from Ivy Ashton. He said, in terms of AI, think of hitting a bunch of singles, not a home run. And I love that, because it brings it down to a human level or a doable level, at least I hope. And I'm totally aware that at the same time we're still dealing with the problem that, I don't want to throw like a whole pile of money at this, or I don't want to do something that is cheap in small bits but expensive when you try to scale it up. Hallucinations are still a problem. Hype is headache inducing, and slop is a problem. And let me explain a little bit more about that. I found endless number of articles, so I only picked like one or two. Doctors say AI is introducing slop into patient care. That's absolutely frightening, but it's the same has got to be true if slop is being introduced. If people are being given bad information about the law or about how to deal with their legal problem, it's slop is AI generated content that is both unrequested and unreviewed. And I hang my hat on that unreviewed. We've got to make sure that we don't get complacent about, slop in our systems. I threw this one at the last minute just because I love it. CEO claims AI will double human lifespan. It's like, oh, give me a break. Just give me a break. I don't want CALI to become this picture or this Reddit post, food delivery robot hits self-driving car. Oh, I think it's hilarious, but it's scary as well. So that's where I'm thinking. That's where CALI is working on making AI relevant to it, and hopefully sharing that with its membership. Let me cover some quick stats. Our eLandL downloads are about even with last year. Not bad though, 36,000. That's like millions of dollars of book costs saved. Our lesson runs are up a little bit, but way more interesting is the lesson link runs. Because the lesson link runs is when a faculty member has assigned or given to their students and they can get the feedback from those lesson runs through the lesson analytics. And I think CALI lessons used in that manner are when they're best used. Registrations are a tad tinier than they were last year, like by 20, no, by 15, yeah. But that's still a good strong number for us. So things are humming along. We have a bunch of new books and updated books. Judd Campbell's Constitutional Rights. This is all in 2024. Steve Johnson, our CALI board president, has been extremely busy. He's got a new book called Statutory Law, a course source, and Contract Doctrine by Verkerke. Second edition, Copyright Law by Chris Holman, and a whole bunch of books in their latest versions, the latest editions. Greg Germain, fifth edition of Bankruptcy Law and Practice. Alice Ristroff with her second edition of Criminal Law. Again, Steve, man, you're keeping busy. But the fifth edition of his Wetlands course. And Stinkin and Brooks with their eighth edition of Sources of American Law. This is a very popular book. Our download numbers indicate that like about half the law schools have significant downloads of this book. So delighted to see the new edition of that. If you know someone who's thinking, I should write a casebook, or I know somebody who could write a casebook, and we do not have casebooks in all the topics that we want. Go to the CALI website, have them write a sample chapter and send it into us. We're always looking for new authors. A2J Author is going strong. It's helped over 8 million people. It's still a great learning tool. But we're sort of in a stasis right now, trying to figure out if we can get some money to help examine the issue of how do you integrate AI into the document automation process. I saw some great sessions at ITSECon where people said, AI alone isn't enough. Document automation doesn't get you. You have to ask structured questions and then use that to feed the AI to then get to generate the report or the document for the court or something like that. And so we're looking into that. But on the A2J Author front, in the last year we published a brand new training course, which was done by Jessica Frank, and it's a self-run course. It's on the website. It's a series of YouTube videos in which she went over it and made it easier and easier and easier for people to use with screencasting and things like that. And so that is available right now for your students. If you just want to send them there and say, do this class, they will learn about document automation. They will learn about the access to justice crisis. They will actually produce a guided interview, from a sample form that we provide. Now, and they may not end up using A2J Author when they go out into practice, but they'll have become familiarized with what document automation stands for and means. Our conference will be at Georgia State University this year. Yay, GSU. And June 5th through 6th. I don't think you can register yet, but you can submit session proposals right now at 2025.calicon.org. Please do start thinking about that. And I'm pretty much done, but I always have a series of thank yous. I want to thank my executive committee, Steve, Marjorie, Amy, and Maria for their work. They govern the governed of the board. I want to thank my board of directors and the authors and the fellows. I love the CE Beers. Keep on doing those reviews, and the reps. You are the reps for CALI. and of course any of the speakers, the registrars who run the awards, and thanks to the students who keep supporting us. We are a organization made up of, and able to do our work based on your membership. And it's been pretty good and consistent for a long time. And I want you to keep on. I want you to know that we work hard to make our stuff worth your effort and worth your support. CALI in 2024 was these folks, but we've had some changes in staffing. Jessica and Dan have left us, and Deb retired. But we've added on John Jorgensen as a new assistant director of curriculum development. So we're small, but we believe that we are mighty. All right, that's my talk. I'm done talking. And if I can find the stop sharing button, I will use it, and we can take the meeting to the next step. Steve?
Okay, thank you, John. As John mentioned, the official portion of the meeting will be over once I adjourn, but John and the Cali staff will still be around, and so there'll be opportunities for Q&A with all of them. So, John, do I need a motion to adjourn, or
You do.
okay? Is there
Moved. So
a
moved.
second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
We're adjourned. And now we'll turn it back over to John for the Q&A portion. So the official portion is done. And now y'all can stick around if you'd like and have Q&A with John and the staff. Thanks so much, everybody.